everybody. Welcome to the Training, Learning, and Development community. Happy Friday to you. Thanks for joining us. Let's see, I do see that Dolores is here, and we've got a few other people registered. So maybe we'll have a few questions coming in from the audience. And I have 10 questions here for our guest, Terry Godfrey, who is a member of TLDC and a long-time L&D professional. I guess you've been around for doing this kind of work for like 30 plus years?
Yeah, started in 1991. So,
oh my gosh, that's
yes,
amazing.
yes.
That's amazing. And I love talking to people like you because you just have a wealth of information, just lots of tips, things that I know would benefit a lot of our newer members, people that are just entering this industry. And I think that being able to get that kind of information from people like you is really, really important. So let's just start out with some basic questions.
Okay.
30 plus years doing this. When did you get started and where?
Grew up in the southern part of West Virginia in the coal field. So my ticket out of there was an education in football. So my goal was to become an elementary phys ed teacher and a football coach. And so I was able to do that and graduated in '83. So I taught elementary phys ed and was an assistant football coach for approximately 3 years, right at 3 years. Locally here, there's a chemical plant, not much left. But I left after that to go in as a chemical process operator. It was strictly a financial move, but I did get to do what I wanted to do coming out of high school. They had just recently started a training department at this particular facility. It was about 2,000 people there. And so I went in as an operator. About 3.5, 4 years later, they asked me an opportunity to get into their training and development team, and I took advantage of that. A lot of it had to do with getting off shift work. So, but I was young, and I was there for approximately about 15 years.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
We managed all of the operator training, all of the safety training. In 2006, after 20 total years, was downsized, which was a really good thing. It's a little scary when you're 45 years old when that occurs. From there, I did a little bit of consulting for about a year, and then went to work for an oil and gas company based out of Pittsburgh that had operations here in West Virginia, Kentucky, and Virginia. And so there I was a technical trainer, actually taught compressor operation skills, design training for it, corrosion measurement.
Wow.
So I was in the field turning wrenches with mechanics, and then I would take that little bit of knowledge and put it together in training, and then left there in, I want to say 2016, I guess, and came over as an instructional designer. I had been enticed by a lot of individuals to pursue the instructional design because that was something that I could just I totally enjoy. I really enjoyed it, and according to a lot of people, was fairly decent at it as well.
Nice.
So moved over to Columbia Pipeline as strictly as an instructional designer. 1 year later, the company I work for now purchased them, and that's where I'm at right now. Our parent company is out of Calgary, Canada. I'm now classified as we just had a reorg in our HR group. I'm now a training developer. There's 5 of us, and then they've created some training strategist roles. So this is where I'm at now, and literally in the last 1/3 of my life, as I call it, having the time of my life. Totally enjoy it. But I've been a corporate L&D person my whole entire career. So.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Nice. Well, Kara seems to be a fan. Terry rocks. She puts in chat here below. So from the get-go, you were into education.
Yes. Yeah. And like I said, it was my family I think I was the first one in my family to graduate with a college degree or
Mm.
actually go to college. But it was just something that I had an interest in. I think it was more so I knew I had to teach school if I wanted to coach football. So my second degree is in is in science. I'm sorry, and but I didn't want to teach the science side of it. Um, but I was really enjoying myself. Met my future wife the first day the student body was on campus in September 1977,
Wow.
and we will celebrate 39 years here in November. So,
Terry,
and
congratulations.
she's a retiree administrator with 33 years, so she left.
Wow.
Yes, so
That's amazing. Yeah, congrats. That's so cool.
thank you.
So this background you have, like, chemical distribution, biodiesel fuels, natural gas, fertilizing. So that part of L&D, being able there, and it seems like manufacturing too, maybe. What
Yes.
what how have you seen L&D evolve
Oh
throughout your
my
time
goodness.
as
Yeah.
a professional?
Yeah, the guy I work with day to day, he's in our group. I think he's 34. Um, but I share with him stories. When I got into it, it was pretty much PowerPoint, and that was it. I broke in on a program called Corel Draw when it first came out, and the PowerPoint side of it was just trying to make things interesting enough. We were not into the bells and whistles with the whooshing sounds and all of that, but we did a lot of in stand-up instruction. I mean, it was a lot of going out into facilities and sharing safety topics. And then in about 1995, my manager put this little box of uh, 'cause, uh, material on my desk, and she said, "Get this installed on our servers, and let's try to get online with some training in the following year." And so that's where I got started with the computer side of it, the LMS. It wasn't really an LMS, and so we put that in into the system and started folding in some of our training topics. But I was looking at a magazine in my office way back in 1993 or 94, and they were talking about computer-based training and talking about graphics and everything. And I just told the guys I was working with, I said, that's the future. I mean, this is where this is going. And I think three of us kind of grabbed that and ran with it. But in my situation, I've been a really active learner. I totally enjoy it and try to keep up with it. But yeah, it's just it's evolved from the PowerPoint. I think the advancements in technology is unbelievable. We just can't keep up with them. Going from the stand-up instruction to the digital and online, the blended approaches, and something that I have an interest in right now that we're actually rolling out into this industry is AR and VR.
Mhm.
So those are some things that it's evolved into.
Yeah, no, I love it, Terry. It's great that you're actually evolving with it,
Yes.
and being able to grow with it. Kim has a great question. She just dropped in here. It seems like not many of our younger L&D folk are drawn to technical training. I'm trying to think of ways to help it be less off-putting to them. Do you have any ideas?
Technical training, and what is meant by the technical training?
Let's see. I'll take a look here to see if Kim answers with that, with technical training. Let's see here. I'm sure she'll post a thing. Let me look. Technical, as in machinery, chemical.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I mean, the people that we deal with, I like to refer to myself as a blue collar L&D.
Mm,
And so I relate really good with the boots on the ground type individuals. And I think getting them involved with that technical training, but we get a lot of people into this industry that are just good workers. They may only have a high school education, And we do bombard them with a lot of online training, but they have a lot of certification. We are a highly regulated industry. So a lot of the training that they go through, the technical side of it, is for the different roles or the different jobs they have, like compressor technicians, corrosion technicians, that sort of thing. And it's a part of their scope of being in that role. So it's not a matter of choosing where they want it, but in order for them to succeed and advance within that particular role, we have different grade levels from 1 through 4. And so that's the interesting. I think from my standpoint of developing I think it's the relevancy of the training that we put out there, that it adds value and not just gives them information. So
Do you have any younger people on any of the teams that you work with? Do you mentor any younger
yeah,
folks?
JB, I don't mind mentioning his name. He and I are the only two in the U.S. So he's 34 and I'm 63. So the rest of them, I think we have a guy out in Calgary. He's probably in his late 40s. The other ones are in their late 30s, early 30s. So yeah, I'm kind of like the grandfather of the whole entire group. So
And they must be like, so, you're working in energy now, right? So,
yes.
these younger teammates that you might have like an interest in that particular industry, or is it something that they just jumped into?
I think they had more of an interest in the learning and development side of it. And then, I mean, for instance, JB, my coworker, he absolutely had no oil and gas background,
Mhm.
but he had a pretty good background in video development, photography, learning and development, online training. And so, with that, in a very positive attitude to learn.
Mhm.
Plus, he was right there with me. Not but he was probably the only one that I've had an opportunity to mentor. And but we mentor each other. He pushes me into directions of learning to fly drones and take video with drones, and I kind of push him into the storyline and Rise and some of the other software that we are using. So
Very interesting. So, like Kim was saying, loves that the term. What was it? The blue collar L&D tech.
L&D, yes.
Yeah. When it comes to, say, like training needs assessment, job task analysis, you have a lot of experience with that. How, as a blue collar L&D person, how do you actually go about conducting finding like specific learning needs within an organization?
We get a lot of requests. We have a quote unquote formal process to where they put in a request for some type of service. Unfortunately, and most L&D individuals are very familiar with what I'm getting ready to say. Probably 80 to 90%, they're wanting a course, an online course. And so, that's the request. And so I approach it from a standpoint of getting that initial contact, and I set up a discovery type call. And within that discovery type call, with normally the requester, which is a lot of times the subject matter expert, I do not talk about any type of modality that we're going to use. I just want to find out if there truly is a need. Now, unfortunately, being in a corporate setting, it's about 50% of what we have to do is pretty much order taking, because it's regulatory. There's a lot of development that we have to do. But once we determine there's some type of need, then we work very closely with them to do some type of training analysis and determine who our audience is going to be, what their roles are, what areas are they in, etc. And then we from there prioritize the different types of avenues that we can go to address this particular need. And then we meet back with the SME, and we go from there and determine our path forward. But we probably don't do a very good job of doing a formal needs assessment. I think it's more a workflow that we do, and
Mhm.
it's kind of built into that. I think one of the things that I've tried to educate myself and some of my teammates is the difference between a needs assessment and a training analysis. I think we kind of interrelate those a little too much,
Mm.
and we start analyzing, doing an analysis first. And a part of the analysis is determining the modality we're going to use to train, and not necessarily a name. We just assume there's a need because this SME approached us. So,
Yeah, yeah. And I know you know a lot about learning theories, methodologies for the types of industries that you've worked in. I mean, how do you tailor your training programs to fit the needs of the learners that you're serving?
Um, yeah, being very honest, a lot of it, and I don't like using the terminology, but it's almost one size fits all.
Mm.
Now, we kind of look and do the analysis to determine, is this more on the awareness level, or is this more specific to a particular task that they are involved with. So it's some time that we have to spend with the SME. One of the things that I've been doing along with my coworker here in West Virginia is beginning to spend more time with the users, the individuals that it's going to affect directly, and getting some of their input. Being
Mhm.
located in a field office, we have that access to those individuals a lot easier than someone up in our Charleston office,
Mhm.
which does not have any of our field employees reporting out of. So,
Okay. I used to work in manufacturing, so I actually kind of love this type of stuff. But do you have a good story, or like a success story that you might have about something that you did that you can share?
I was thinking of that. I saw one of your questions when we became TC Energy or Trans Canada. I had pretty much lived in Articulate. Storyline for 10 years and really loved it. And unfortunately, they used Captivate. And I know some people, there's kind of a debate over which one is which, but I had never been in Captivate and was given the responsibility to create a 27 course curriculum on gas storage, working directly with the director of the gas facility, or the gas storage facility, who helped write the PHMSA rules. And so that was a really eye-opening paradigm shift in course development, especially when you get 27 PowerPoints that this individual had put together. And the minimum, I think, looking back now, was probably 70 slides.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
yes, it was, but everything worked out. I just had to take a step back. It really challenged me to, one, make something that pretty much is pretty boring. It's regulatory, but to try to make it interesting enough to pull the people in. And so I'm a real big fan of finding out what is actually needed
Yeah.
versus what they want. And so we decided, without going into great detail, is that everything on the slide would be what they need, and anything that they wanted would be off the slide. So he sent the presentations that way. And so we just created, or I created the opportunity. We hit the high points, and then if they wanted to further investigate what the additional information, we had access to that for each slide. But it was a toughie, especially when we had, I think it was done in 8 months by myself. So
Wow, I was going to ask that. How long? Oh, geez, 8 months. Wait, and did you say you built it in Captivate?
all of it was in Captivate, which and I had never been in Captivate, and had no choice because we didn't have we didn't have storyline. So I would sit with three monitors. One monitor would have tutorial videos, on how to do things, because I was trying to make it interactive and a little bit engaging, which those two things are a little different to begin with.
Yeah.
But I just didn't want the next button over and over.
Yeah.
And so I put together, part of my workflow is putting together some type of workflow prototype that I can get to the SME pretty quickly to kind of give them an idea where something's going, and get a thumbs up or a thumbs down before we get too deep into something like that. And that seems to work really well in this industry,
Mhm.
because I think one of the big things that I do want to point out is that my background from the chemical industry, I went through a 4-year apprenticeship program as an operator, learning about all kinds of equipment, regulators, instrumentation, compressors, pumps, valves, as a operator. And then over at the other gas company, I actually taught classes on compressor techs, how to operate a compressor, a dehydration system, how to change out valves. Same thing with measurement and corrosion. So I had that background, and once my um, relationship was established with my SMEs, even today, they feel comfortable enough once I give them that prototype that I know what I'm doing,
Yeah.
and they really trust. But I think I'm reading Kara North's book on experience, and she has used the phrase a couple times, relational equity, which just jumped off the pages at me. And I'm really big on that, is forming some type of relationship with my subject matter experts. And I think the trust factor of them knowing that I'm going to deliver something, one, on time, and then also something that's going to add value, not just, fill their heads with knowledge. So,
Mhm. So having that 4 years and then that, the compressor knowledge that you have, I mean, that must have just completely helped with that relational equity that you're talking about, just being able to talk to other SMEs and you having a background in some of these concepts.
yeah, it established, once they, got to know me and everything and found out about that. And a lot of times it's a little difficult for myself to kind of toot your own horn, for lack of better words. But when we became Trans Canada, people didn't know me. I mean, we were brand new, coming over from another organization, and so they thought I was an instructional designer that was sitting in an office in
Yeah.
St. Albans putting together training material. And so once again, I had to kind of do some marketing, uh, personal marketing with the individuals out there. But I think over the course of the last 6 years or so, the 7 years, I think uh, the production of product that myself and my coworker and the whole entire team that I work with has brought on their idea that hey, we've got an internal group that can actually really do good work. There's
Mhm.
really no need for us to begin looking outside the company, and they still do.
Yeah.
But we've actually taken on some responsibility, some projects from a couple of consulting groups that were scheduled. And once they found out that we could do, they canceled those and came to us, and we were able to take those on. So.
That's fantastic. Let me ask you, this really interested me when I was going through your LinkedIn profile. You've done stuff for you have experience in both operations and distribution. Um, any difference in how you build your training for those two?
Well, right now, we, again, we support the corporate side from HR standpoint. I mean, we do the cybersecurity, we do the health, safety, and environmental type training. We do specialized development for other types of soft skills, et cetera. We do not do a lot of instructor-led training development. Normally, those are developed internally in the business units. But as far as the distribution side of it, that was more so in the chemical plant that I worked in. So you had the distribution of drumming and packaging, And then
Mhm.
you had the operation of where they moved the chemicals around. A huge difference, both in the type of worker that was in both of those positions.
Mhm.
The distribution side was a very repetitive, daily, same thing over and over and over.
Right.
The operations, there may be a facility, there may have been a facility that had 4 or 5 or even 6 different jobs within that facility that had different skills. The wonderful thing about in the chemical is I got a good start in this industry because they were really big on doing job task analysis on everything,
Mhm.
and they worked with the hourly personnel, supervision, the union, etc. For a couple years, and I was involved with that in determining what are the jobs, what are the tasks involved with it, and what are the different skills that are associated. So we had some really good foundational information for us to build training on. So
Wow, amazing, amazing. Time has just flown by here, so I've just
yeah.
got couple more questions I think I
Okay.
can ask you. Let's see, leadership training and development. You've done that, right?
Yeah, yeah, I did when I was at the chemical plant, and I know I'm going all the way back so many years, but
Mhm.
there I got involved with was selected and went out and actually taught the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Stephen Covey was certified in that. As far as leadership training now. Now we do support. I was working with a couple individuals out of Calgary, but most of it, as far as leadership training, is third party
Mm.
type activities. I like to think that um, I lead upwards, for lack of a better word. So one of the things, and I'll tell a very quick story and not take a lot of time, but I asked my wife after about 25 years, I said, "Am I ready to be a training manager?" And now that's asking someone that had been an administrator for 33 years. And she said, "I don't think that's the question you need to ask." And I said, "What is it?" She said, "Are you ready not to be? Because you
Mhm.
may not, that may not be where you need to be and where your passion is located." And now it's into the 30 years. And obviously that was true. And I'm perfectly content with where I'm at, have no desire to manage. I think we can manage people and not have the title just as well. So
Right. Nice, nice. All right, couple more questions. I just want to hear about this because you just have a wealth of experience. Most challenging training project.
I think it has to go back to that. I kind of jumped ahead that gas storage one.
Ah.
That was a pretty big challenge. The other one I would mention is that our company had contracted out for these courses. There were 72 courses to be built in 2 years, and I was the to review those as they come in and set up review periods. And the company where we were working with ended up having something like 5 instructional designers and 3 developers. And I just really got bombarded with all of this. So we ended up breaking the contract and taking all of that on ourselves. And so in two years ago, I committed to working on these courses, which was working with our internal trainers who I knew personally,
Mhm.
had lunch with, dinner with, etc. And so we were able to develop 46 courses in a year and a half that were related directly to corrosion, compression, measurement, and kind of took that business away, but ended up saving the company somewhere between 300 to $400,000. So
Wow.
I just wish I'd have got a hold of that particular contract when they first signed it, because I wouldn't be on the phone with you right now. That was but it was a tough one. But again, those are things when you get to do what you enjoy and make a living at it,
Yeah.
you look at it differently. Believe it or not, it's kind of a stress reliever for me to learn something new and try it out.
Hmm.
storyline. My big thing now is the virtual reality and getting some of our 360-degree images into Oculus headsets to where our technicians can visit a compressor station way back in the mountains, and they might be 100 miles away, and they can feel as if they're standing in the gravels of this compressor station with a headset on. And
Wow.
yeah, we are getting really deep into that, and we've got some people that are just really expecting some good things, because one of the things that we're working on is that they invested about $600,000 in a training facility out of Calgary, and so we went up and took a whole entire tour of that facility
Hmm.
with our 360 camera. And so we're putting something together so they can see it not only on a computer, but they can put it in a headset. And we're going to give it to the individuals in Calgary who have never been there, but they financed it. So they'll get to see the facility that they financed without getting on a plane and traveling all the way down to West Virginia to see it. So, but
Wow.
the VR is really, really picking up in our industry. And in where we're located, we're promoting it and showing some people some things that we can do, and it's real equipment. It's a real piece of a machinery that they're standing next to. They may not be able to control it or anything, but there's ways of educating them with video and so forth.
Hmm.
So there's some things that we're working on, and I have kind of learned how to do that within the last 6 months. I had never been in a headset until about 4 months ago.
Hmm. Are
But
you actually building some of the simulations yourself,
yes,
or?
yes,
Yeah.
yes, yeah. I bought cameras myself from, just because I have an interest in it. But we're integrating drone video footage, um, video, 360-degree video. We're doing hotspots, risk assessment to where they go around a warehouse. So there's a lot of things that just work wherever your creative mind can lead you.
Yeah.
And I follow some really good people out there online. Especially, I have no idea of how to do JavaScript, but there's quite a few people out there that are sharing some things that we're integrating into some of our training,
Hmm.
and people seem to pick up on that quite as well. So,
That is great. Gosh, Terry, it has been wonderful talking to you. Just, you can definitely tell that you love what you do.
oh,
And
totally enjoy it.
I
So,
think that's one of the reasons why time has gone by so fast. But I do want to ask, well, actually, I have two questions. One quick one. Do you still use Captivate?
we have courses developed in Captivate,
Uh-huh.
so we don't have a choice but not to use Captivate. Now we do a lot of conversion, so if we have to go in and do a pretty major revision, we'll convert it.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
but yeah, I still have a lot. Well, the company pays for all the license. I think I'm the only one in our group that still has a license. Everybody else is like, I don't want anything to do with it now.
Right. You must be good at it, though. You must be good
Oh,
at
I don't know about that.
it. And then last question. If you weren't an L&D professional
Uh,
or instructional designer, what do you think you would be?
well, I wrote that down. I thought, well, maybe this is not the right, probably retired right now where I'm at. Um, but if I had to do something, I spent about 2 years. I think it's been 2 years ago, maybe three. I spent 2 years doing volunteer work for a men's homeless shelter in Charleston on
Mm.
Saturday mornings, teaching life skills to the homeless, and then going over and spending 2 hours with their attendees in a recovery group that were there for drug addiction and different things, and just so changed my life. I just had a blast. So I would probably have maybe ended up going in that direction
Mhm.
later on in life. I would have probably been I was working on becoming an administrator. So I had an idea of maybe being a high school principal or maybe even an elementary principal.
Mhm.
But, the money back in the early 80s, mid 80s, it's hard to turn down a pretty hefty pay raise going
Yeah.
from teaching to the chemical industry. But this time of my life, it would probably be getting into more of the volunteer work with the shelter. Really enjoyed. It was just eye opening, and you meet all kinds of people, and you find out about why people were addicted. My big question with those individuals was, why did you come to get recover?
Hmm.
And most of the men, well, all the men, because that's who I worked with, I would say well over 70% of them said the reason they chose was because they started stealing from their mother.
Mm.
And so they didn't care if they stole from their father, but from their mother. That just turned the tables on them. And so I still stay in contact with a couple of the guys that the recovery really stuck with them. One individual is working on a master's degree in counseling. His wife is working on a master's, and she's a recovering addict as well. So,
Mhm.
but very fortunate, very blessed. I didn't go down that road. Never had a desire to go down that road.
Mm.
So I don't know what it's like to have to quit that level of addiction. But they were quick to point out and let you know, though. So it was.
Wow. Terry, that's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. That is really, really says a lot about you. Um,
Thank you.
and I feel privileged to have had this conversation with you, Terry. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. That's it for today. We've got a couple more showcases next week. And of course, the Accessible and Inclusive Design Conference is coming up in a couple weeks in August. I guess it was August 14th through the 18th. So make sure you go to theaidc.com to sign up for that if you're interested in attending that one. And with that, Terry, I'm going to wrap it up. Thanks again.
All right. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, like Kim is saying, thank you so much for being here today, Terry, and really appreciate your time. All right, and that's it. Have a great weekend, everybody, and we'll see you next time.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.